In theory, multi-camera sitcoms all follow a similar format. We have the cast of characters, mostly talking, trying to work their way in and out of absurd situations. These situations are centered around the 4 key pillars of our lives: work, romance, friends and family, and hobbies. So if they're all trying to hit these similar notes, how are they not fundamentally just the same? It all comes down to one key word: tone.
George, is this funny? It's funny.
Every sitcom has a tone to its comedy, a distinctive voice that encapsulates the world in which the jokes are written. To understand tone best, you don't just look at what jokes they tell, but what jokes they avoid. Because what's absent from the page creates a unique lens through which the world of the show is understood. For instance, Seinfeld is famously referred to as a show about nothing. Although Jerry later clarified that they actually pitched it as a show about how a comedian gets his material, and each episode is actually about something. But co-creator Larry David had 2 key rules for writing the show: no hugs and no learning. This immediately distinguishes the show from its competitors, where the characters, despite whatever conflict they endure, tend to openly love and show affection towards one another, creating a more wholesome viewing experience. Or the characters learn lessons, they suffer real loss, so that we don't just relate to their mistakes, but learn from them. On some level, this can make a sitcom a bit like a grown-up version of a kids' show, instilling values that might make the world a better place. Whereas Seinfeld does the opposite. It tells stories that involve these same key pillars, but strips them of their moral weight or emotional sustenance. Even though these characters have families that we meet, people that they date, and colleagues that they work with, other people are still largely viewed as a burden.
I will never understand people.
They're the worst.
Unlike other sitcoms, Seinfeld has a very cynical view of social interactions, where there are conceivably 2 layers to our behaviour. The public face we put on to seem polite, affable, and likeable.
Hold on a second. She wants to have a drink with me. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I think I can.
And then the private face that only our closest friends see, where we unload our true feelings about the people in our lives. Everyone does this in small doses, but in Larry and Jerry's scripts, it's a constant theme. The characters are all misanthropes, largely looking out for themselves. Sure, they might try to do each other favours now and then, but no one is reliable, as if they don't screw it up by mistake, their own self-interest might get in the way, or they may just put their friend in an awkward position because it will be funny for them to witness. This makes the writing feel more unpredictable, as the characters have no clear moral compass guiding them. But with enough episodes, every sitcom's tone and style turns into a formula, as once they stray away from the original voice the show is written in, then it stops feeling like itself. So think about it, if you were writing an episode of Seinfeld, what details would you have to include? What jokes would you have to tell? And what narrative structure would you have to follow in order for it to fit in with the rest? Straight off the top, we'd obviously open with a stand-up routine from the comedian himself. It could be about waiting in line, awkward handshakes, chewing gum, answering machine messages. Whatever it is, it's going to set up one of the themes of the episode. But now it's time to decide what type of episode it's going to be. And for Seinfeld, there are 3 main episode brands. There's the nothing episode, where the entire show takes place in the time most other sitcoms would skip over. Like waiting for your table in a restaurant, finding your car in a parking lot, or buying a gift to bring to a dinner party. Or there's the car crash episode, where a character makes it clear right from the beginning that there's an outcome they don't want, like telling people their ATM code or not waking up on time for a race. And how over the course of the episode, the perfect storm will occur where no matter what they do, that exact outcome is going to happen. Or the ironic, unintended consequence episode, where the characters' plotlines converge to create an absurd outcome no one could have seen coming. This is the most common type of Seinfeld episode, and the formula usually involves the same elements. George's cheapness, insecurity, or laziness will create a problem that could have easily been avoided. Jerry will date or deal with someone who irritates him, Elaine will either work for or date someone who turns out to be a weirdo, and Kramer will get obsessed with a new hobby or get-rich-quick scheme. And given Kramer is such a wild card of a character, then more often than not, it's his plotline that will neatly tie into the ending. But before we get there, the characters must wrestle with an issue surrounding social etiquette. What are the unspoken rules of society that we need to obey to avoid being criticized? For instance, how long are we meant to hold onto a thank you card? It's inevitably going to be thrown out, but when does it become socially acceptable to just toss it away? 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 minutes? What's the difference? Once you've seen it, you've technically got the message, right? Whatever the social issue, it will usually involve some grey area, and the characters will each have a slightly different degree to which they agree or disagree, talking through every minute detail to determine whether a social crime has been committed.
You know, if you were sitting right next to her, you'd have to console her no matter what. Moving from the chair to the couch, that's quite a voyage.
But the Seinfeld writers really specialize in zooming in on one tiny preference that may have crossed the viewers' minds, and then blowing it out of proportion to the point characters are willing to fight over it.
You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again.
Because as silly as it seems, these are things we do care about. We just don't make a big stink about it because we don't want to come across as petty. So having characters verbalize our own quiet background thoughts and standing by them like they're the most important thing in the world is a classic Seinfeld trope that you just don't find in other sitcoms without Larry David present. That's because Seinfeld isn't really a sitcom about nothing. It's a sitcom about icks, the little things that turn us off or disgust us that we can't help noticing. This is particularly true when it comes to dating. The characters will hone in on one tiny detail that becomes their date's entire personality. The high talker, the close talker, the one who needs a nose job, the one with the Elmer Fudd laugh, or the one who doesn't laugh at all. Elaine even breaks up with someone for not using an exclamation point in a note he left for her, and she just can't let it go.
I would put exclamation points at the ends of all of these sentences, on this one and on that one.
The take-home feeling of the show is that hell is other people. Even the people you like come with side effects. This is why characters in Seinfeld tend to always have one definable quirk that starts off enjoyable in small doses, but over time turns into a grating flaw for everyone around them. It's as if every character is comedically trapped in a prison of their own idiosyncrasies. And although the main gang can't help but notice everyone else's annoying patterns, even they are stuck in a cycle with their own predictable catchphrases. Elaine will push someone when she says "get out", Kramer will go "oh yeah" and fall over a bunch, George will cram the word baby into most conversations, and Jerry will sarcastically say "that's a shame" and begrudgingly greet Newman. In any sitcom, the most defining stylistic quality is the rhythm of the dialogue. How does it sound as it unfolds? For instance, if you swapped out the actors in these sitcoms and had them perform each other's scripts, could you still identify which was which? This is one of Seinfeld's strongest characteristics. It just doesn't sound or feel like anything else. Given it's a show about repetitive behavioral cycles, it's fitting that the dialogue flows the same way.
I do not chuck. Never chuck. Never have chuck. Never will chuck. No chuck.
You chuck?
So a certain word will often take a leading role in an exchange and be consistently stated back and forth. It's almost like the actors are doing a dance with the dialogue, rearranging and repeating the same word over and over with different punctuation.
A bubble.
A bubble?
A bubble.
Yes, a bubble.
I mean, the car stinks. George's the car stinks.
Thanks.
Stinks.
This gives Seinfeld a unique frequency, a tone you just can't quite hear anywhere else. But not every character will conform with the established rhythm. In fact, certain individuals' personal quirk is their charismatic communication style.
It's lewd, lascivious, salacious, outrageous. Again with the pepper? What are you gonna use all that pepper for?
In these cases, they may not be performing in the same voice, but their delivery is still in harmony with the over-the-top style of the show. As in Seinfeld's universe of jokes, everything's a circus. No one is normal, everyone is irritating, and nothing means anything. Stuff just happens. Doesn't matter if it's fair or not. You have just as much chance of something good happening as something bad happening. And the outcome you wanted today might be the reality you dread tomorrow. So you might as well just not take it all too seriously, as whether you like it or not, shit is going to keep on happening. The show's ironic story formula makes there feel like an air of inevitability to every episode's outcome. That of course Kramer's golf ball will be discovered in a whale's blowhole by George while he's pretending to be a marine biologist. That of course the same driver Elaine pretended to be deaf in front of will now not believe the real deaf girl that just got in the back of his car. That of course Susan's father's Cuban cigars that George secretly gave to Kramer will end up burning down his cabin. Because once you understand the formula, the tone, and the idiosyncrasies that rule this world, then there's really no other way this was ever going to go. Well, if you've made it this far, firstly, thank you for watching, but if you could now give the video a like, possibly even leave a comment and click on that subscribe button, it will encourage that mysterious algorithm to do its thing.